Silence has power. More power than most people realize. See, every time you speak about your plans, your goals, your next big move, you give away a fragment of your energy. You dilute the intensity of your own conviction. Because when you share your vision too early, before it has roots, it becomes vulnerable to wind, the opinions, doubts, and judgments of others. And what's worse, those doubts don't just sit outside you, they begin to echo within you. Suddenly you start questioning yourself, not because your dream was weak, but because you exposed it too soon to people who couldn't see what you see. Most people underestimate how fragile new ideas are when you get inspired, really inspired. It's like a spark in dry grass. It can catch fire and grow into something unstoppable, but only if you protect it. If you keep it in the open, if you start shouting about it before it's ready, the rain of skepticism will come and wash it away. Silence in that moment isn't secrecy. It's strategy. It's you saying, I respect my vision enough to protect it. You must learn to move quietly. That doesn't mean hiding forever or shrinking away from the world. It means building strength in private so that when you finally reveal yourself, you're undeniable. Think about a tree. When it begins as a seed underground, it's completely invisible. But it's developing roots, connections, and strength. It doesn't announce itself every day. It doesn't tell the soil, hey, I'm going to be a tall tree someday. It just grows. They'll question your choices. They'll laugh at your ambitions. They'll call you unrealistic. But that's part of growth. If everyone understands you from the beginning, it means you're not evolving, you're conforming. The willingness to be misunderstood is the cost of originality. And only those who can pay it ever achieve something truly meaningful. When you stop explaining yourself, you conserve power. Every time you defend your vision, you drain energy that should be going toward building it. Let your results speak for you. Let your consistency silence doubt. The people who once questioned your decisions will eventually rewrite their stories to fit your success. But you must endure the phase where belief looks like madness. You must stand firm when your reflection doesn't yet match your potential. Because the truth is, you're not here to be liked. You're here to be effective. That effectiveness comes from inner alignment. If you're constantly adjusting your identity to please others, you lose coherence. You become fragmented. One version of yourself at work, another at home, another online. That fragmentation erodes confidence because deep down you know it's a performance. Detachment then is about wholeness. It's about acting from your center, regardless of external reaction. When your sense of self is rooted in truth, you stop negotiating your peace for approval. And something profound happens when you live this way. You begin to attract people and opportunities that match your authentic frequency. You no longer have to chase connections. Genuine ones find you. Because authenticity is rare currency. You're not trying to look successful. You're trying to become it. That distinction changes everything. But moving in purpose isn't enough if you don't act like it's already yours. This is where belief turns into embodiment. You can't just think successful thoughts. You have to live as though the life you're pursuing is already unfolding. It's not arrogance, it's preparation. You can't expect abundance if you behave like someone who's still begging for it. The way you carry yourself, the way you speak, plan, and execute must reflect the reality you're creating, not the one you're escaping from. This is where most people stumble. They say they want transformation, but they keep behaving like their old selves. They keep repeating the same patterns, expecting new outcomes, but your identity is the foundation of your results. You can't build a future with the habits of your past. If you want to attract success, you have to become the kind of person who naturally produces it. That means discipline where there was once avoidance, consistency where there was once chaos, focus where there was once distraction. The mind is a powerful filter. It can't distinguish between imagination and reality. It believes whatever you consistently feed it. If you wake up every morning and tell yourself you're unlucky, the brain begins to notice every piece of evidence that proves you right. But if you wake up and carry yourself as someone who's capable, resourceful, and worthy, your actions begin to align with that self-image. You'll take different risks. You'll respond differently to setbacks. You'll start to perceive opportunities that were always there, hidden behind your self-doubt. Acting like it's already yours doesn't mean pretending. It means positioning. You're positioning your mind, your habits, your language, and your environment to match the level of success you want. That could mean dressing differently, speaking more assertively, managing your time with intention, setting boundaries, or surrounding yourself with people who challenge you. You're not waiting for external success to give you permission to behave this way. You're earning it through internal transformation. And here's something crucial. Consistency is identity. You can't fake who you are becoming. You have to live it day after day until it's no longer effort, it's natural. That's when you've rewired your nervous system for success. It's not an act anymore, it's who you are. That's what separates those who dream from those who achieve. The dreamers wait to feel ready. The achievers act as if they already are. The act of embodying your future self teaches your subconscious to stop resisting success. You stop seeing it as something distant and start treating it as something inevitable. And once that happens, the gap between vision and reality begins to close. Your belief, your energy, and your actions start working in harmony. That's when results begin to appear. Not out of nowhere, but from everywhere, because you finally stopped contradicting your own potential. Most people never reach this point because they're trapped in the waiting game. They say things like, once I have more money, I'll be more disciplined, or once I feel confident, I'll take that opportunity. But it doesn't work that way. The confidence comes from doing the thing before you feel ready. The discipline comes from acting in alignment before results appear. You don't wait to become, you become by acting. That's the essence of transformation. And this mindset doesn't just attract wealth, it reshapes your entire life. Because the person who acts like it's already theirs takes responsibility instead of making excuses. They prepare instead of procrastinate. They plan for the long term instead of chasing immediate comfort. They don't crumble when faced with challenges because they've already accepted that challenges are part of the process. That's the psychology of winners. They don't wish for easier lives, they build stronger characters. When you begin to embody that version of yourself, you stop negotiating with mediocrity. You stop seeking permission. You start creating systems instead of relying on motivation. You move with purpose, but also with patience, because you understand that every small step compounds. You realize that success doesn't arrive all at once. It accumulates quietly in the background until it breaks through visibly. And by that time, you're already a different person, someone capable of sustaining what once felt impossible to reach. Acting like it's already yours means trusting your preparation even when results are invisible. It means knowing that your effort is never wasted even when it's not yet rewarded. It means becoming so aligned with your purpose that doubt no longer dictates your behavior, because eventually the external world catches up to the internal one. The money, the opportunities, the recognition, they begin to appear naturally, not because they were summoned by luck, but because you became the person capable of holding them without losing yourself in the process. And when it finally breaks through the ground, it's already strong enough to face the wind. In life, the same principle applies. Your silence is your incubation period. It's where you're tested, where you learn to focus without applause. Most people crave validation so much that they exchange their potential for temporary approval. But approval doesn't build you, silence does. In silence, you learn to hear your own voice, the voice that isn't distorted by the noise of the world. You begin to realize that confidence doesn't come from people clapping. It comes from you keeping promises to yourself when no one's watching. Now, this doesn't mean you should live in isolation or never share your thoughts. It means you need discernment. Who deserves access to your vision? Who can hold your ideas without contaminating them with fear? Because not everyone can. Some people are too limited by their own perception to understand what you're trying to build. They'll measure your dream by their own failures. And if you're not careful, you'll start lowering your standards to match their comfort zones. When you move in silence, you're not being mysterious. You're being disciplined. Discipline is what transforms potential into progress. When you resist the urge to talk about what you're doing, that energy doesn't vanish, it gets redirected. It turns into focus, persistence, and execution. The silence you maintain becomes the soil where your results grow. And when you finally speak through your achievements, your voice carries the weight of evidence, not opinion. So protect your focus. Stop announcing your next step just to feel momentum. Real momentum isn't external, it's internal. The most powerful people on earth aren't the loudest, they're the most consistent. They wake up early, they grind quietly, they learn, they build, and when they finally show up, it looks like success came out of nowhere. But it didn't. It came from silence. Now let's move deeper, because silence, while powerful, is only the foundation. What builds on top of that foundation is belief. This is where everything starts to come alive. You've probably heard people say, I'll believe it when I see it. But that's the wrong way around. You see it when you believe it. That's how reality works. Every single thing you use, admire, or benefit from started as a thought, an idea that existed only in someone's imagination before it became visible. Belief is the blueprint of manifestation. The mind has a strange relationship with reality. When you believe in something deeply, your brain starts to filter the world in ways that confirm it. You begin noticing opportunities, patterns, and connections that were always there but hidden from your awareness. This isn't mystical, it's psychological. The human brain is designed to prioritize what you focus on. If you focus on lack, you'll notice more evidence of scarcity. If you focus on growth, you'll begin seeing possibilities where others see problems. Belief is not delusion, it's direction. It's the invisible compass that points your attention toward creation rather than collapse. When you believe before you see, you're not ignoring reality, you're shaping it. You're saying, I will act as though my goal is possible. And in doing so, I'll give it room to exist. Most people fail not because they lack talent, but because they lack faith in the unseen. They want proof before they commit. But proof only comes after persistence. Think about the people who've changed the world. Scientists, inventors, artists, entrepreneurs. None of them had guarantees. They had belief. Belief in the invisible structure of possibility. They held on to their vision when nobody else could comprehend it. They didn't wait for validation. They moved with conviction. And that's the key. You cannot create wealth, success, or transformation if you don't first believe that you're capable and deserving of it. Money is not just a physical thing. It's a symbol of value, energy, and exchange. It follows those who believe in their ability to create value. If you think small, you act small. If you act small, opportunities don't recognize you. You must expand your internal capacity before your external rewards increase. You cannot hold abundance with a scarcity mindset. And belief isn't just mental, it's behavioral. You can say you believe, but your habits reveal the truth. If you truly believe in your potential, you don't procrastinate endlessly. You plan, you execute, you study, you build systems around your vision. Because belief without action is fantasy, and action without belief is exhaustion. You need both. So how do you cultivate this kind of belief? You start with evidence, small victories that prove to yourself that you can follow through. Keep promises to yourself. Do what you say you'll do, even when no one is watching. Every time you do that, you strengthen the neural pathways of self-trust. That's belief in motion. That's how you turn faith into foundation. Then feed your mind with possibility. Surround yourself with examples of what's achievable. Read stories, watch documentaries, learn from people who built something out of nothing. Not to copy them, but to remind yourself that growth is normal for those who commit to it. You become what you expose yourself to. If you constantly feed your brain with fear, doubt, and limitation, your actions will mirror those inputs. But if you feed it with courage, learning, and resilience, your behavior will evolve to match. And don't mistake belief for arrogance. True belief is humble. It understands that growth requires patience and effort. It doesn't demand instant results. It trusts the process. That trust is what keeps you stable when circumstances don't reflect your expectations. It's what keeps you moving when results seem distant. Because belief is not about pretending everything is easy. It's about knowing that even when it's hard, it's still possible. When you merge silence and belief, you create a force that's unstoppable. You're no longer desperate for approval, nor dependent on validation. You become grounded, deliberate, and precise. Your silence fuels your focus. Your belief fuels your execution. And when the world finally notices, it looks miraculous, but it was you all along, disciplined and unseen, building a reality that started as nothing more than a whisper in your own mind. Energy is a currency, not metaphorically, but fundamentally. Every decision you make, every thought you entertain, every conversation you engage in is a transaction of energy. And most people spend their energy carelessly. They waste it on worry, on comparison, on things they cannot control. And then they wonder why they have none left to invest in creation, in growth, in wealth. The truth is, energy creates currency, not the other way around. You can't expect money, opportunity, or progress to flow towards you if your inner state is chaotic, exhausted, or cynical. The external world reflects your internal economy. If you're constantly anxious, if your self-talk is poisoned with doubt, you send out a frequency of scarcity. You move through life signaling that you don't believe in abundance, and so abundance avoids you. It's not superstition, it's psychology. The human brain is a pattern-detecting machine. When you carry the energy of possibility, you begin to notice patterns that align with it. You become alert to opportunity, receptive to collaboration, and courageous enough to act when others hesitate. Your energy calibrates your perception. People often talk about attraction as if it's some mystical force, but it's grounded in behavior. When your energy is stable, focused, and determined, you act differently. You speak with clarity. You follow through. You stay consistent. And those qualities magnetize opportunities. Think about the kind of person you're drawn to. Someone who is confident but not arrogant. Someone who exudes purpose. That's the power of energy. It's non-verbal, but it's undeniable. When you become that person, centered, intentional, and self-respecting, you stop chasing outcomes. Outcomes begin to recognize you. But this requires discipline. You cannot expect high returns from low energy. You have to become a careful steward of your focus. That means filtering your environment, limiting exposure to negativity, mindless entertainment, and draining conversations. Every moment spent on something meaningless is a withdrawal from the account that funds your future. The most successful people in the world guard their energy with the same seriousness others guard their money. They understand that if their mindset collapses, their wealth will eventually follow. And this is where most people fail. They think their circumstances determine their energy, when in reality, their energy determines their circumstances. They wait for life to improve before they improve their attitude. But energy doesn't work like that. You have to generate it. You have to train your mind to find momentum even when nothing seems to be working. Because your internal state is not a reflection of your results, it's the blueprint for them. When you decide to elevate your energy, to operate from gratitude instead of fear, from focus instead of distraction, you start to align with a deeper sense of direction. Suddenly, you're not reacting to life, you're directing it. You're making choices not out of desperation, but out of clarity. And clarity is a multiplier. It turns every small action into something meaningful. People notice, they can feel it. That's when money starts to flow, not because you're chasing it, but because you have become someone who attracts it through value, competence, and composure. Now, let's look at something deeply connected to that: detachment from approval. Because your energy can't stabilize if you're constantly performing for acceptance. Most people are drained not by their work, but by their obsession with what others think of their work. They live in a mental prison built from the opinions of people who are often doing less than they are. And the more they try to impress, the weaker they become. Approval seeking is an addiction. It gives you momentary relief, but long-term dependency. When you detach from approval, something powerful happens. You reclaim authority over your own self-worth. You stop outsourcing your validation to others, and you start producing it internally. That shift changes everything. Your confidence, your creativity, your decision-making, because now your motivation comes from purpose, not applause. You start doing things because they align with your values, not because they'll earn temporary recognition. And ironically, that's when you start to earn genuine respect. People sense authenticity. They sense when someone is moving with integrity rather than insecurity. But detachment doesn't mean indifference. It doesn't mean arrogance either. It's not about saying, I don't care what anyone thinks. That's just rebellion disguised as confidence. True detachment is about perspective. It's understanding that approval is a byproduct, not a goal. You can appreciate it when it comes, but you don't depend on it. You maintain your direction regardless of who claps or criticizes. That steadiness is rare and it's magnetic. Because when you're no longer swayed by every external opinion, you move through the world with quiet certainty. Detaching from approval also means you learn to be misunderstood. That's one of the hardest lessons for high-achieving people to learn. When you start doing something different, something bigger, people won't get it at first. The world is filled with imitation. And when someone operates from a place of clarity and conviction, it stands out immediately. You become trustworthy, not because you're perfect, but because you're real. The combination of energetic integrity and detachment creates a form of quiet strength that's impossible to fake. You start walking into rooms differently. You don't need to dominate conversations or prove your worth. You carry it with you. People feel safer around you because your energy isn't erratic. You're not trying to extract validation from them. You're adding presence. That shift alone can change your life personally and professionally. Most people will never experience this level of groundedness because they refuse to let go of external control. They keep trying to manipulate outcomes, force approval, and micromanage everything around them. But the paradox of power is that it grows when you release your grip. When you stop needing the world to affirm you, you finally become capable of impacting it. So if you want to create wealth, not just financially, but emotionally and spiritually, start by managing your energy like it's sacred, because it is. And stop explaining yourself to people who aren't walking your path. Your energy and your independence are the foundation of everything else that's coming. They prepare you for the next stage, where clarity transforms into action and purpose begins to generate tangible results that can no longer be ignored. Panic is the enemy of progress. It disguises itself as urgency, as motivation, as productivity, but it's not. Panic is chaos wearing the mask of action. It tricks you into thinking that motion is momentum, that busyness equals success. But there's a vast difference between movement and meaning. When you're driven by panic, every decision becomes reactive. You chase things, you grasp at opportunities that aren't aligned with your purpose, and you end up exhausted, not evolved. Real growth doesn't come from panic, it comes from purpose. Purpose is quiet, deliberate, patient. It doesn't shout, it whispers, and if you're too busy trying to silence your fears with frantic activity, you'll never hear it. You have to learn to slow down your internal noise long enough to recognize direction. Most people are so terrified of being behind that they never realize they're running in the wrong direction entirely. They're obsessed with speed, not with alignment. They confuse urgency with importance, and in doing so, they sacrifice depth for pace. But life doesn't reward the fastest. It rewards the most focused. When you move in purpose, your actions begin to align with something larger than your immediate desires. You stop being controlled by fear of missing out or comparison. You understand that what's meant for you doesn't need to be chased, it needs to be cultivated. That's what it means to move in purpose. Every decision becomes intentional. You begin to evaluate not just what you're doing, but why you're doing it. And that why is what separates a life of constant stress from one of steady expansion. Desperation is a repellent force. You can feel it in people. The nervous energy, the constant need for reassurance, the inability to rest, it pushes away opportunity. Purpose, on the other hand, is magnetic. It draws things toward you because it radiates confidence and clarity. When you know who you are and where you're going, you stop begging the world to notice you. You simply keep building until the world can't ignore you. That's the paradox. When you stop chasing, you start attracting. But this isn't some vague mystical law. It's psychology. The brain operates best under order, not chaos. Purpose gives structure to your effort. It transforms scattered energy into a directed force. You wake up with clarity instead of confusion. You no longer waste your mornings asking, what should I do today? Because your path is defined by your values. You're not waiting for motivation, you're guided by mission. And that's infinitely more sustainable. When you start moving this way, something profound happens. Your sense of time changes. You begin to trust the process. You stop demanding immediate results. You realize that everything significant takes time to mature. Skills, wealth, relationships, impact. There's an internal calm that comes from knowing you're aligned. You no longer fear the unknown because you're building from conviction, not convenience. You've made peace with the long road. That's what separates those who achieve lasting success from those who only taste it briefly. Purpose steadies the hand that panic shakes. It keeps you anchored when the world around you feels uncertain. And right now, in a world obsessed with shortcuts and noise, being anchored is a superpower because everyone else is running. Everyone else is distracted, comparing, scrolling, performing. You're building slowly, deliberately, deeply.